Hi, this is a video review for confident children and in particular Lucy Nathanson's intensive sessions. Last week we had a parents' evening with our daughter's Year 3 teacher. She's currently at primary school in Year 3. The first thing the teacher said was, since Lucy came, our daughter has been completely transformed. She's opening up to teachers, she's chatting to everyone, the other kids, the teachers, well, anyone at all in the school. And her personality's come out. She's, they'd say, oh, we now realise how funny she is, all of these sorts of things. And then she said, Lucy Nathanson is a miracle worker. So in this review, I'm going to be trying to explain how that happened. So firstly, a bit of background. When she was very young, a baby, toddler, we had noticed that she displayed some quite strong symptoms of anxiety. So she wouldn't eat in front of certain people in public places. For instance, in an airport, we were trying to get her to eat a sandwich and she just wouldn't eat it, even though she would normally eat with us in the house fine. Things like baby meetups, those sort of play sessions that you have, she wouldn't enter the room. You'd almost have to almost push her into the room or encourage her gradually into the room. And she wouldn't really interact with anyone. She'd be very stiff, like she wants to go home the whole time. We hadn't come across selective mutism at all. So when we found out at preschool that she wasn't speaking to anyone, staff, the kids, that sort of thing, the preschool didn't know what selective mutism was, and nor did we. Eventually, we got a diagnosis, and then managed to get some therapy. But this was a bit later on. This is when we were starting school. Now she carried on her condition at school, so she was not speaking to teachers or other kids, and was very frozen. She wouldn't eat or go to the toilet. She almost had to be led around the school by an adult taking her around. She wouldn't move around on her own. She wouldn't do any work. We got the work sent home to do afterwards. We had to, if there was any sort of assessment, we'd have to get the assessment done at home on a video and send them in. So it was quite a severe case. And she was completely normal at home. So, really fit the definition of selective mutism. She was, completely fine, would talk to anyone, happy, would do everything, but at school, just completely different. We started sliding in fairly intensively. I mean, we'd go in multiple times a week, morning sessions, about 20 minutes to half an hour. And over the course of maybe 2 years, we tried to make as much progress as possible, but it was almost like hitting a brick wall, because even though we could get little strides, you'd often go backwards, and it was extremely frustrating, but we tried our best, and we followed all the guidelines. We got some very good advice from therapists, private therapists, NHS therapists, and tried to put it into practice. But it was extremely difficult to keep some kind of forward momentum and make meaningful progress that felt like we had an end goal that we were going to reach at some given time. But we had made some progress. So she was talking to her friends. She was talking to her grandparents. This is all outside school. Inside school was a bit of a different matter. Although she was a bit more relaxed around the teachers, she might walk around a bit. She had a very good TA in Year 1 who managed to get her to do work and eat food, which was really good, because that meant that this wasn't coming home. We weren't worried about her, going hungry at school and that sort of thing. So that it was good progress. We were happy with it, but obviously it still felt like we were a long way off from the end goal, and there was always this spectre of selective mutism that could always go backwards. She was always, things could always. So, for instance, the transition from Year R to Year 1, things went backwards a little bit. She stiffened again, Now, during Year 1, because it was clear that we were hitting a bit of a brick wall, we put ourselves on the confident children waiting list for intensive therapy with Lucy. So that's in the background, and then we moved school to a new area. Now, when we started the new school, we were hoping that it would either fix itself, because she'd got to an age where she's starting to overcome it, and the change of people, change of building, all of that might help her just overcome it instantly. And she even said something leading up to it, which is, I guess I can talk at this new school, which gave us a bit of hope. And so, yeah, we started the school, and on the first day they phoned us up and said, she's having a hard time, she's, not talking, she's not eating, and she's very anxious, she's crying, we had to take her out of the room, and yeah, so that was a little bit upsetting, but she quickly got a bit more used to it, and she was no longer in distress within a day or so. So she was okay, but unfortunately she was still had selective mutism. She wasn't talking, and the eating that she'd solved in the previous school had come back, the eating situation where she wouldn't eat in front of people, and of course that's a little bit worrying because you want her to not go hungry at school. It's for a variety of obvious reasons, really. So yeah, the two things that she wasn't doing were talking to anyone, adults, children, and she wasn't eating. So the first thing we had to solve was eating, and her mother, my wife, she went in for sessions at lunchtime. At the school were very accommodating and let her go in at lunchtime to help our daughter eat. And the way she did this was starting very, very far away, where no one could see our daughter, and our daughter couldn't see anyone else, and was hidden away just to get her to eat on the school grounds. And that worked. That she managed to eat in those positions, but of course that's not sustainable. You have to move closer to the hall, and the way they did it was just moving very, very gradually closer each time, all the while our daughter wasn't visible to any other children, and those children weren't visible to our daughter, and moved closer and closer, eventually got into the hall while still forming a barrier in front of our daughter as she's eating. And this was a very gradual process over many days, but eventually we got the reward, which is that our daughter could eat in front of people in the school hall. So that solved the issue, but it was very it was a very gradual process, and got there in the end. We still had the issue of talking. So at that point, once we'd solved the eating issue, we then moved on to sliding in with regards to talking. So this was a new TA who'd come into the school to help our daughter, who was very good. She did really well. We had sliding in sessions every morning for about half an hour a day, most days in the week. I think it was about 4 days, and started off just the standard way. So you talk in the room without the TA in there, and it was still apparent that our daughter kept checking over her shoulder. Can she see us? So, and wouldn't really talk. But again, lots of gradual work, and we managed to get it to the point where she could talk to the TA via a walkie-talkie, and that helped break the ice a little bit. And once we got to that point where she was talking to the TA and managing to play games over a walkie-talkie, then we could fade out and essentially leave them to it. And from there, the TA did an amazing job. She took it from that to face-to-face talking in a private room. And one of the highlights was seeing them talk outside of the school grounds, when they happened to see each other, and just having a chat outside the school ground. We'd never seen anything like that before, with any teacher. And just seeing that was amazing. And so, hats off to the TA for that. And so it was clear we were making good progress, but there was still this barrier in front of us. We cannot get her out of this room talking to the TA into the classroom. It's just a massive difference. You've got all the kids in there, you've got the other teachers, you've got the potential for other adults to come into the room, other kids. It became, it was very, very difficult. And of course, we tried various things. The TA, tried little classroom sessions and again, worked really hard to do it, but it just seemed like an impossible job. So fortunately, being on the waiting list meant that our time came around at about this point. And it was a really good point for it to come around because, we'd just hit a brick wall. We'd taken it what felt like as far as we could. And and it was time for Lucy to see what she could do. So we began with Confident Children with a remote session, a video chat with Lucy. It was obviously very clear she knew what she was talking about. We'd seen her videos anyway. We knew she was extremely good. But yeah, the advice is very personalised. It was very useful to us. She communicated with the school as well, and enabled them to put some of these things in practice. And on that call, we arranged an intensive session at school. I think it was a couple of months later. I can't remember exactly when we had the call. But yeah, so once we had that call, we put these into practice at school, and yeah, we had a lot of good signs. We had her talking more freely in the room to other people, to not just the TA, but to the 𝗙𝗀𝗀𝗀, even to the head teacher. She did and some of her friends. So she'd have these friends come into the room to talk to as well, along with the TA. So they would do one of these clapping, rhyming, or whatever that's called, in front of the head teacher. And he wrote us a really nice email to say that he'd witnessed this. It was, and how proud he was of her progress, and it was really nice to hear that. So this was all really good. But once again, we were at a brick wall. So, for instance, the 𝗙𝗀𝗀𝗀 told us that she could walk into that room, have a free chat with our daughter, and then they would leave the room, and immediately she would change. So back in the classroom, she'd be different. In the corridor, she'd be different. She wouldn't be able to do what she could do in that room. So again, it felt like a huge barrier, and fortunately, we had a scheduled intensive session with Lucy that we'd read the reviews. They sounded a bit too good to be true. I mean, I don't really know how someone can walk in who is essentially a stranger to your daughter, to the child, and have success like that. But we hope, we had a lot of hope, so we were looking forward to it. And any improvement would have been good. I mean, we'd taken it as far as we can. Anything that could get us over that hump would be really useful to us. So yeah, we arranged an intensive session, and Lucy started by coming to our house to build rapport with our daughter. And once she came to our house, she gave us some very clear instructions about how to do things. She didn't just turn up and play it by ear. It was very much like, we have to be ready for her to send us a text message and that sort of thing. And what to do, what to be doing when she arrives. It was very, very well prepared, and very clear that she'd done this a lot and knew exactly what would give the best outcome. In our case, we were quite hopeful that our daughter would talk to Lucy because, outside of school, she generally made massive strides, and she was talking to most people now, especially after a bit of a warm up. So, but still, we it was good to play it with care, because if it went wrong, it would probably set us back a little bit. So yeah, we did what Lucy said, and it worked really well. She came in, our daughter was playing lots of games, and as soon as Lucy sort of slid herself in, they got on like a house on fire. We could just leave them to it, really. They sat there playing all day. Our daughter was having an absolute whale of a time, very loud, very energetic, so it was very clear, quite early on that it was going well, and that we weren't going to have a problem with our daughter talking to Lucy, just in general. Who knows what it's going to be like in the school, but at least in general, she could talk to her. And we could also hear Lucy, breaking into little questions and conversations about our daughter's condition. So she was prepping her for the intensive sessions. So she wasn't just, playing games and that's it. She was also exploring what our daughter feels about things, giving our daughter ideas about how she can potentially overcome this, that sort of thing. And our daughter responded very well. I mean, I know with selective mutism, you've got to be a bit careful about how you broach these issues with the children, but obviously Lucy knows what she's doing, and yeah, that was clear. It was very clear that she was, choosing the right time, the right words, all of that. So that was really good to see, and filled us with confidence, really. I mean, we knew that when she was going to turn up at school, that she was really in the best position to help us and help our daughter. So that's what we like to see. Well, we had 4 days booked for this, and having done sliding in for as long as we had. 4 days isn't long at all. 4 days, you know, we've been doing it for years, literally years, and trying, you know, our real hardest to make improvements. So, you know, it's almost unbelievable when anything can be done in that time. But, you know, Lucy turned up on the first day. I mean, the first we heard of it was at the end of school. But she had got our daughter to firstly talk to her in the private room, which was the, you know, step one, just to get her to talk to her initially. And also a lot of the children in the class had come in to that room as well and spoken in front of Lucy and the TA and our daughters, and our daughter spoke in front of all those children. I think she managed to get a group of 8 in at one point, which was sort of unheard of. So she'd be talking in front of a group of about 8 kids, obviously gradually building up through the day with larger groups. She got our daughter talking in the corridor, which I think she'd never done before. She'd never spoken in the corridor before, at a quieter volume, but nevertheless still something she'd never managed. It was always, you know, the fact that there could be people around that would see her talking. So getting to that stage was a huge milestone. That's just day one. So day 2 happened, and that was even better. That was everyone else in the class came into her room. So she'd gone around all the kids. I remember she had a tick list and she ticked off every single child on the list. You know, now they've all heard your voice, and you've spoken directly to them and in front of them. At that point, she managed to get her to talk in the classroom as well. So it's day 2, and she's got her talking in the classroom at a quieter volume, you know, separate to all the other kids, but in front of other kids on her table, and in the classroom. So, yeah, that was unexpected that it would happen that quickly. But yeah, day 2, she'd managed to get her to talk in the classroom. Day 3 was unfortunately a very heavy storm, and drivers were advised not to drive, and so Lucy couldn't come in that day, unfortunately. And yeah, so but, you know, we had a day left, so that was fine. And day 4, so what was essentially the 3rd day, we were anxious because it's the last day. We're anxious to see how, you know, what can happen on this day. So I remember going in. I remember the teacher looking at me like, "You're going to be so impressed with this." You could tell she was you know, awestruck really, with what Lucy managed to do. So Lucy had got her to talk in the classroom. You know, got her back to where she got to on day 2. So talking in front of the kids in the classroom, talking in the corridor. This is all happening louder than it happened before. Then she got her going around the whole school with a joke book, asking staff, I think almost every staff in school, other teachers, you know, the office staff, the dinner staff, and the head teacher jokes. So she would go up to them and tell them a joke, right? So yeah, I mean, that's, you know, every room, you know, the office, the hall, the head teacher's office, you know, we're no longer confined to this one tiny room. And then she gets her into the classroom where she's speaking in front of lots of other children, you know, almost to the whole group of kids. And I remember when we turned up, they said, "Oh, we got a bit of time left. Is it okay if we just go back in there and try a fake register? You know, just do the register at a time that we don't usually do it." So they did a register, and our daughter said yes when her name came up. And apparently, the register is one of the hardest things to get to overcome with selective mutism, because you're on the spot. You know, it's your name. You've got to say your bit. Everyone's listening for you to say something, and she did it. So that was on the lot. So this, you know, 3rd day. You know, 3 days of therapy, and I still almost can't believe when I say it. It sounds unbelievable. But she managed it. So, yeah, I mean, what can we say really? I think, you know, the teacher was getting her autograph on one of her books, and at the end, and yeah, you know, amazing really. It just feels like a miracle. It doesn't really feel like something that can be achieved normally. I don't really know how she did it. I think it's probably her, you know, a mixture of expertise, you know, knowing all about the condition, you know, exactly what to say at the right time, but also her general demeanour just works. I think it just you know, she's got the right tone of voice, I guess, the right playfulness, the right level of everything, and that helps her do this, you know, extremely well. I struggle to think anyone could do better. So, hugely impressed. Thank you so much. And yeah, just to give an update really on where she's come from there. So the next part will be about that. So our big worry was the weekend. You know, is it going to sustain itself over the weekend? Will our daughter be able to continue what she achieved with Lucy, or would it all go back to square one? And I think on this point, Lucy had got a good system for this, which is that she'd given our daughter almost like a reward system. So whenever she achieved something while she was there, she would give her, I think it was a fake coin or something like that, and at the end she could trade in her coins for a prize. And that allowed the school to continue this system, so they would give her the rewards. And that allowed all this therapy to carry on working the next week, even without Lucy there. And what that resulted in was just that it all carried on. She was talking in the classroom, she could talk to the teachers, she could talk to her friends. There's really nothing now she can't do. You know, there's nothing that you'd say, well, she can't do that thing because of selective mutism. It's really all just, yeah, she does it all now. There might be the odd tiny area, like, you know, she might not sing in the choir, but that's fine. You know, these, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, we've achieved everything we could have ever dreamed of. So we're really happy. She's kept it up well over the Christmas break. You know, there was a couple of weeks where she wasn't, you know, possibly things could have come back differently in January, but no, it's all been good. She's still chatting away. I've seen it myself. You know, we drop her off at school. She's chatting in the classroom immediately as she walks in. You can see her through a window, putting her things in the lockers, chatting to her friends, you know, at the beginning of school. So it's all going really, really well. And I would say it's solved. I don't imagine it going back. Even we're going to be careful for the transition to year 4, but I think there's enough time now to really cement her progress, and I don't see us returning to it. Need to be careful, but I'm really hopeful and confident that it's done. So that's where we are now. It couldn't be happier. So just a final point on the communication from Confident Children and Lucy personally. It's all been really good, really clear about what's going on. You know, we dealt with Confident Children in general. The receptionist, Charlene, she was really clear about everything. We knew exactly what was going on, what we had to do. And once Lucy starts with you, she deals with you personally. So you get messages from her. It's, you know, you can have back and forth. It's really good. She talks to the school afterwards, so she keeps communicating with the school, checking everything's going well. Can she offer any, you know, keeps giving them advice to a certain point when it's clear, you know, you don't need it anymore. And so yeah, I think it's 4 weeks or whatever's agreed. And yeah, the back and forth is really useful. And of course we get a report from the school saying what you know, how it's gone, which is good to know that things are continuing well. You don't have to worry. So yeah, overall, really couldn't be happier. Lucy is a miracle worker, as the teacher said last week. All the reviews are true. You know, it may sound too good to be true, but we've experienced it now, so I can say that yeah, we're really happy with that. So thank you so much. It's changed our lives, really it has, and our daughter's life. So it was more than worth it. So thanks very much.
Thank you for helping me, Lucy.